Welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wisdom is worth spreading. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. Today, I'll be deciphering the book Autobiography of Andrew Carnegie. This book chronicles the life journey of American entrepreneur Andrew Carnegie. Whether you're in the midst of building your career or have already achieved some success, I believe Carnegie's story can inspire you. When it comes to Carnegie, two titles come to mind. One is the Steel King. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, he founded Carnegie Steel Company, the largest steel enterprise globally at the time. Their steel production once accounted for 25% of the total U.S. steel sales. The other title is America's Philanthropic Wealth. Carnegie donated to over 2,000 public libraries and established numerous funds. By the time of his passing in 1919, he had given away a fortune of $350 million. Beyond his financial wealth, Carnegie's views on wealth, his philosophy of philanthropy, and his methods influenced countless future entrepreneurs. It can be said that Carnegie laid the foundation for modern American philanthropy. This man, who knew how to make money and how to spend it, didn't receive much formal education. His family was quite poor, and people often described Carnegie as a self-made man. From a humble beginning to a business titan, and then to a great philanthropist, it's a legendary journey that is hard to replicate. In this book, Carnegie shares his thoughts and actions during this extraordinary journey. He began writing articles for newspapers when he was just a teenager and had a fondness for writing. The contents of this book were written after his retirement. John C. Van Dyke, the editor of this book, organized it in chronological order, based on time and significant events. Through this book, we can see how a self-made individual used his beliefs, vision, and actions to become a great entrepreneur. He believed that consistently doing the right things would inevitably bring about change. Carnegie placed great importance on small matters and was adept at finding opportunities in the details. He could identify and hire people more capable than himself to develop his business and consolidate the fragmented steel industry. These principles and actions still hold value today. In Carnegie's view, wealth doesn't grant the right to indulge but rather imposes a responsibility to help society. This perspective on wealth can still inspire our thinking about success and responsibility. How to responsibly manage wealth was a significant topic that Carnegie raised in his time and remains a soul-searching question for anyone aspiring to achieve something significant. I hope Carnegie's viewpoints can inspire you. Today's interpretation has three parts. First, we'll delve into the upbringing of the impoverished Carnegie and see how he started from scratch. Second, we'll discuss the business philosophy of the Steel King, Carnegie, while considering his business strategies. Finally, we'll explore the wealth perspective of the great philanthropist, Carnegie. In the first part, let's take a brief look at Carnegie's journey of growth together. In 1835, Andrew Carnegie was born in Dunfermline, Scotland. His father was a weaver with 4 or 5 handloom machines at home, involved in the textile business, while his mother was a homemaker. Their family's financial situation was decent at first, but with the advent of the steam era, steam-powered looms replaced handlooms, and their income began to decline. Young Carnegie tasted the bitterness of poverty. At the age of 10, he had to wake up early to fetch water from the well and run errands for the family after school. Witnessing the hardships at home, he resolved to change it all when he grew up. Children from poor families often had to take on responsibilities early, but Carnegie didn't complain about poverty. Instead, he understood the value of gratitude. In his book, he mentioned that even though his family was poor, it was warm and loving. His mother played the roles of nurse, cook, home tutor, formal teacher, and saintly figure all by herself, while his father served as their role model, mentor, advisor, and friend. Carnegie's childhood was filled with the warmth created by his kind and amiable parents. Carnegie's mother believed that a good family environment was the best guarantee for a child's healthy growth. His father's textile business became increasingly difficult to sustain, so in 1848, they moved their family to Pittsburgh, USA. At that time, Carnegie was only 13 years old. To help his parents and not rely on others, he decided not to attend school and began working. He started as an apprentice in a cotton factory under his father's guidance. Later, he worked as a messenger at a telegraph office and self-taught himself to become a telegraph operator. Subsequently, he began working for the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. In just a few years, Carnegie became the superintendent of the Pittsburgh division of the railroad. For a young man with limited formal education, this was already a significant success. But it didn't stop there. Soon, he was not only promoted further but also became a wealthy man. How did Carnegie achieve all this? Through the content of the book, we discover that, first and foremost, his family influenced him positively, instilling in him excellent qualities, a strong work ethic, and a quick learning ability. His parents' teachings molded him into an upstanding individual. His father, known for his noble character and beloved by others, even helped establish the first local library in their hometown. His mother had high hopes for him and told him that there were many things one could do in this world. She emphasized that as long as he always did the right thing, he could become a useful, respectable, and respected person. Her guidance helped him through the tough times during his apprenticeship. When he had to sit alone in the factory basement, covered in mold, with little hope in sight, he still had high aspirations. He didn't know what changes the future held, but he firmly believed that if he continued to work hard, change would come. In addition to his parents, his Uncle Lauder had a significant impact on Carnegie's character formation. Uncle Lauder infused him with a romantic spirit, a sense of patriotism, and a love for learning when he was just 8 years old. Lauder operated a shop in their Scottish hometown and, in his spare time, would share Scottish history and stories of heroic figures with young Carnegie. He also made him practice recitation regularly. This practice improved Carnegie's memory and laid the foundation for a lifelong commitment to learning. According to Carnegie, as long as it was something he enjoyed, he could learn it quickly. Secondly, Carnegie's early success was also a result of his personal efforts. Hard work is a common term, but what set Carnegie apart was his methodical approach to hard work. For instance, in his role as a messenger at the telegraph office, he needed to memorize the addresses of various businesses to deliver messages efficiently. Carnegie diligently memorized these addresses. He could close his eyes and recite the names of all the businesses along the commercial street from one end to the other and then back again from the other end. Besides memorizing addresses, he also made efforts to get to know the employees of these businesses. This not only saved him time when delivering messages but also left a positive impression on potential clients. Carnegie enjoyed being a messenger, as he mentioned in his book. He said, "I do not know of any work for a boy which is more interesting, more varied, or more apt to make a man of a boy than a messenger's duties. Clever men like clever boys." From being a messenger to a telegraph operator and eventually a Pennsylvania Railroad Company employee, Carnegie's horizons expanded step by step, and his social circle began to broaden. However, many of the topics people discussed were beyond his comprehension. He made a rule for himself: if he heard something he didn't know, he would immediately start learning about it. He believed that once a person acquired a certain skill, opportunities to apply it would arise. Knowledge a person possessed would inevitably find a way to be useful, to manifest itself. This viewpoint stemmed from his own experiences. When he worked as a messenger at the telegraph office, he also had to clean the telegraph operating room. During this time, he had the opportunity to practice using the telegraph equipment and communicate with telegraph operators from other offices. One day, a call came in for a telegraph operator who wasn't present, and Carnegie helped receive the message. This opportunity allowed him to master telegraph operation skills, transitioning from a messenger to a telegraph operator at the age of 17, engaging in professional work typically reserved for adults. Apart from his intelligent diligence, Carnegie also possessed keen foresight. He consistently identified opportunities for career growth and the potential of new industries and products. His career development and advancement at the Pennsylvania Railroad Company went smoothly. In 1853, he became a telegraph operator for the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. Just 6 years later, in 1859, he was appointed superintendent of the Pittsburgh Division, responsible for complex management tasks. Beyond his primary work, Carnegie excelled in investments. He used borrowed money to buy stocks and earned dividends. He invested in a sleeping car company, which turned out to be a major success and provided him with his first significant income. He also co-founded companies for manufacturing iron bridges and ironworks, among other ventures. Why was Carnegie always able to seize opportunities? People say it was because of his unique vision. However, his unique vision wasn't innate, it was developed through attention to detail in everyday matters. Carnegie placed great importance on small things, believing that minor details could have significant impacts. As he mused in his book, a single word, a glance, or a dialect could alter a person's destiny or even a nation's fate. One of the pivotal moments in Carnegie's life was when he became a messenger at the telegraph office. He got the job because the telegraph office manager casually asked one of Carnegie's uncles. The manager probably didn't realize that the young messenger he hired on a whim would later become a telegraph operator, gain experience in workplace management and finance at the Pennsylvania Railroad Company, build a network, and eventually become the Steel King of the United States. Carnegie hoped that young people would remember that luck is often determined by small events. Lastly, Carnegie's early success was also a product of the historical context of the time and his position within it. In the 19th century, the U.S. economy began rapid growth, with one of the major drivers being the railroad industry. Railroad companies were among the first modern businesses in the United States. Working in this environment exposed Carnegie to large-scale commercial operations and allowed him to directly handle complex issues in engineering, management, and finance. This experience not only made him a versatile individual but also provided a solid foundation for his future career. Without this larger context, even if someone were smarter, worked harder, and had a better eye for opportunities than Carnegie, they would not have achieved the same level of success. Former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan made an interesting comparison. He said that Andrew Carnegie became the world's richest man during the steam era, while his father became increasingly impoverished during the same period. We know that Carnegie's father was involved in handloom weaving. In the 1830s, with the advent of steam-powered textile factories, his father's business became more challenging, eventually forcing him to seek a livelihood in the United States. It can be said that the era that dealt a heavy blow to Carnegie's father was the same era that paved the way for Carnegie's success. Next, let's delve into Carnegie's experiences in the steel industry and his business philosophy. In 1865, Carnegie had the opportunity to become an assistant superintendent at the Pennsylvania Railroad Company, but he chose to resign and venture into business with a clear goal of making significant wealth. Just before amassing that fortune, he embarked on a European journey with friends. During the trip, he marveled at masterful artworks and enjoyed musical extravaganzas. More importantly, he witnessed the potential for development in the United States. At that time, most European cities seemed stagnant in their growth, while America was a hub of activity. Hundreds and thousands of people were bustling about, racing to contribute to the construction of magnificent structures. Upon his return to the United States, Carnegie invested his energies in various ventures before entering the steel industry. Before entering the steel industry, Carnegie engaged in numerous business endeavors with his partners, including founding companies such as a railroad sleeping car manufacturer, a bridge building firm, and an ironworks. He even dabbled in trading stocks, options, and bonds, causing some to worry that he might leave the manufacturing sector for finance. However, what he loved most, and what he had the utmost faith in, was manufacturing. Carnegie consistently advised his partners to focus on steel production, broaden their business horizons, and expand the scale of their factories. He recognized the enormous potential in the American steel industry. Before the Civil War, the United States had to import most of its iron and steel from suppliers in England and elsewhere. The British government's support for the Southern Confederacy during the Civil War had provoked public anger. After the American Civil War, the United States aimed to be entirely self-reliant in matters concerning national security, which meant achieving self-sufficiency in steel production. With the U.S. government committed to protecting its domestic manufacturing, capital could confidently enter the industry. Against this backdrop, around 1870, Carnegie gradually withdrew from other investment projects and focused on the steel industry. He channeled the majority of his income into steelworks and related industries, with the ambition to become a leader in this field. By 1881, Carnegie's company accounted for 1/37 of the total steel production in the United States. In 1897, their annual steel production approached nearly 2 million tons. Carnegie mentioned in his book that the annual profits of their factories once reached $40 million. Regarding the success of his steel business, Carnegie emphasized in his book that the most crucial factor for achieving tremendous success in business was quality. From the inception of their ironworks, they consistently employed the best materials in ample quantity. Whether it was bridge construction, iron smelting, or steel production, they proactively subjected their products to rigorous inspections. In his view, the most solid foundation for a manufacturing enterprise was quality, followed by price. While quality was undoubtedly crucial, achieving the level of success that Carnegie did could not be solely attributed to quality. In his book, Prosperity and Depression, Alan Greenspan analyzed why Carnegie and other great businessmen like Morgan and Rockefeller achieved historical prominence. He asserted that their legacy was not rooted in creating entirely new things but in developing effective methods of organizing and managing new endeavors. Specifically, there are three key aspects of their work. Firstly, they must be able to discover new inventions that can revolutionize the manufacturing industry. Secondly, they need the ability to gather raw materials from distant places. Finally, they should possess the capacity to integrate unrelated economic activities. In the case of Carnegie, Greenspan believes that his success as the Steel King was due to Carnegie's discovery of the latest technologies and methods of that era, coupled with his skills in scaling up operations. Now, let's combine Greenspan's analysis with the content of this book. People often praise Carnegie for his exceptional vision. So, did Carnegie rely solely on his own vision to discover the latest technologies and methods in the steel industry? Yes and no. No, because many of the latest technologies and methods were not discovered or invented by Carnegie himself but by members of his team. For instance, he had a partner named Andrew Carnegie, an outstanding mechanical engineer and inventor. Carnegie was the first to use cold saws for precise cutting of cold iron. He invented the top hammer, used for bridge riveting, and manufactured the first universal rolling mill in the United States. These innovations were put to use in Carnegie's steel factories, giving them a technological advantage. So, why do we say that Carnegie discovered the latest technologies and methods of his time? Because, whether they were expert talents like Carnegie or managerial talents, Carnegie discovered and utilized them effectively. When someone joined Carnegie's steel company, they might start as an ordinary, low-paid employee, but if they demonstrated good business acumen, they could rise to become partners or company presidents. This was Carnegie's way of rewarding and elevating his associates. In Carnegie's view, the best way to achieve success in business was to elevate those who made outstanding contributions. He highly valued talent, to the extent that even his epitaph reads, "Here lies a man who knew how to enlist in his service better men than himself." Here's another example: chemistry played a crucial role in steel production. However, in 1870, practitioners in the American iron smelting industry didn't understand the utility of chemistry, nor did they seek the assistance of chemists. Carnegie, on the other hand, was adept at personnel management, which led to the development of one of the most profitable ventures of his steel company, the Lucy furnace. Iron smelting was a critical step in steel production for producing pig iron. Carnegie's Lucy furnace not only had high production capacity, setting production records, but it also allowed Carnegie to almost monopolize the scientific management model of blast furnaces. Back then, those responsible for managing blast furnaces in the steel industry often relied on experience and intuition and lacked professional methods. The Lucy furnace initially operated in a similar fashion. Carnegie dismissed the original manager and appointed a young man as manager, providing him with a consultant, the knowledgeable chemist Dr. Frick. Under the guidance of this chemist, Carnegie's team gained significant scientific insights into their industry. For instance, a certain type of iron ore, previously highly regarded, was found to contain 10 to 15% less iron content than previously believed, while ores considered to have no potential were found to yield high-quality iron ore. With the guidance of the chemist and the knowledge of chemistry, many conventional wisdom in steel production was overturned. High-quality ore turned out to be of lower quality, and low-quality ore became valuable. Armed with this knowledge, Carnegie's company not only produced top-quality products from high-quality ore, thus expanding their product advantage, but also procured excellent ore materials at lower costs, enhancing their cost advantage. In addition to valuing scientific knowledge, Carnegie introduced scientific management practices he learned from the railroad company into the steel industry. When he first entered the iron smelting business, Carnegie was astonished to find that people in the industry were unaware of the cost of each process in iron smelting. They only found out how they had performed over the year when they balanced their books and inventoried their stocks. Carnegie once heard a humorous anecdote. A person believed his factory would show a loss at the end of the year but discovered it had actually made a profit. Carnegie likened this situation to digging in the dark, something he couldn't tolerate. In his view, a crucial foundation for success in manufacturing was to introduce and strictly implement a sophisticated system of accounting that linked the use of funds and materials to specific individuals. He implemented this system in his iron smelting factory, understanding the cost of each process, the tasks of each person, who saved raw materials, who wasted them, and who achieved the highest output. Years later, Carnegie Steel Company established a precise system that not only provided insights into the operations of each department but also allowed for detailed analysis of individual work at the furnace. Besides discovering new things and applying scientific management techniques, Carnegie also possessed the ability, as described by Greenspan, to gather raw materials and integrate unrelated economic activities. In 1873, Carnegie and his partners founded the Keystone Bridge Company. Their first challenge was site selection. After much deliberation, Carnegie decided to establish the factory in Pittsburgh because he believed it was the best location in the United States for steel production. Pittsburgh offered convenient transportation with 3 railroad lines, one of which was the Pittsburgh division of the Pennsylvania Railroad Company, managed by Carnegie himself. The location was also close to coal and iron mines and major rivers, making it easy to gather raw materials. Furthermore, to ensure a steady coal supply, Carnegie acquired coal furnaces, and to secure or supply, he purchased iron mines. To guarantee smooth raw material transportation, he acquired railway and shipping lines. In other words, Carnegie engaged in both horizontal and vertical integration within the steel industry. The larger the production scale, the more means there were to reduce costs. Carnegie placed a strong emphasis on cost reduction. He had several famous sayings about costs, such as, cut prices to drive competitors out of business, and, operate the factory to full capacity. By paying attention to costs, profits would take care of themselves. These maxims are equally applicable to today's manufacturing industry. Let's take a look at the philanthropist Andrew Carnegie's perspective on wealth. In 1901, Carnegie Steel Company accounted for 25% of the total steel sales in the United States. It was also in that year that Carnegie sold the company to J.P. Morgan for $500 million, making him the richest person in the world at the time. After retiring, he primarily engaged in philanthropy. Today, it might not sound particularly remarkable for the world's wealthiest individuals to focus on charity. Bill Gates, for example, is deeply committed to philanthropy, and in July 2022, he announced his plan to donate his entire fortune to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. However, what some may not realize is that when Bill Gates founded his own foundation in 1994, he cited Carnegie as one of his inspirations. This shows that Carnegie's views on wealth and his actions in philanthropy continue to influence the present day. Now, let's explore Carnegie's thoughts and actions regarding wealth and philanthropy. Starting with his thoughts, Carnegie's views on wealth and philanthropy are most prominently articulated in his essay, The Gospel of Wealth, which can easily be found online. Carnegie published this article in the North American Review in 1889. Carnegie believed that the proper disposition of wealth was one of the pressing issues of his era, especially for those who had accumulated substantial riches through society. He thought that if wealthy individuals managed their surplus wealth wisely, it could help address issues of wealth inequality. In his essay, Carnegie analyzed 3 ways to dispose of surplus wealth. 1. The most common approach is to leave it to one's descendants. However, Carnegie considered this approach unwise. He found that those who inherited vast fortunes often met unfortunate fates, often squandering their wealth and ending up in poverty. In his view, what a family should pass on to future generations is not just monetary wealth but a legacy of honor. 2. Another method is to bequeath one's wealth to the public upon death. While some may see this as noble, Carnegie didn't regard it as praiseworthy unless it was truly necessary. Those who only contributed to society after their death did not deserve gratitude in his opinion. He believed that to genuinely benefit a community, it took more than just wealth, it required one's intelligence and abilities. The wisdom required for philanthropy was comparable to the wisdom needed to amass wealth. If someone was only willing to contribute their wealth after death and not during their lifetime, it was difficult to ensure that their intentions would be carried out as they desired. 3. According to Carnegie, the best way to dispose of surplus wealth was for the wealthy to actively manage their wealth during their lifetime. This approach could alleviate temporary wealth disparities and act as a catalyst for bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. One might wonder why wealthy individuals can't simply divide their wealth equally among everyone. Carnegie compared the equal distribution approach to the approach of the wealthy managing their own wealth. Dividing immense wealth among the public would result in each individual receiving only a small sum of money. These funds might improve the comfort of a family's life or fulfill immediate desires but would do little for the overall progress and development of humanity. In fact, Carnegie believed that indiscriminate charity could hinder societal progress. In Carnegie's view, those capable of amassing significant wealth were merely agents of wealth. The more substantial their wealth, the greater their responsibility. Wealthy individuals should use their assets for the common good, maximizing the benefits of their wealth by combining it with their time, wisdom, and experience. Following the publication of The Gospel of Wealth, Carnegie shifted his focus from accumulating wealth to distributing it. He established several specialized philanthropic foundations. For example, the Relief Fund was created to aid injured steelworkers, while the Hero Fund rewarded heroic acts and provided pensions to the heroes and their families. Other foundations included the Railroad Retirement Fund and the Teaching Promotion Fund. In November 1911, Carnegie established the Carnegie Foundation for Philanthropy with an initial endowment of $135 million, which was the largest independent charitable fund at the time. The foundation's purpose was to promote the dissemination of knowledge and mutual understanding among people. Additionally, Carnegie donated a vast number of libraries, contributing to the benefit of countless generations of Americans. Notably, Carnegie himself benefited from public libraries. Despite receiving little formal education and needing to work to support his family at a young age, he managed to read a book each week while working as a telegraph messenger, thanks to a Colonel Anderson, who opened his private library to him. Although not extensive, this library ignited Carnegie's love for literature and opened a small window to the world for him. It elevated his intellectual horizons. Carnegie's experiences made him realize that the most effective way to help children with good character and a sense of kindness was to establish public libraries within communities. On August 11, 1919, Andrew Carnegie passed away, having donated $350 million of his wealth during his lifetime. He left behind the famous quote, "The man who dies thus rich dies in disgrace." This quote resonated with countless people, and through his actions, Carnegie demonstrated that wealth was just one component of philanthropy. When combined with goodwill, experience, and wisdom, the benefits of a good deed could be maximized. This sums up the essence of his autobiography. Carnegie's life was truly legendary. He came from humble beginnings but left his mark in history as both a steel magnate and a philanthropist. This biography provides a glimpse into the man behind the halo. A loving and caring family upbringing shaped him into a respectable, hard-working individual with a warm heart. Carnegie had a deep respect for scientific knowledge and had a knack for identifying and promoting individuals more capable than himself. He was detail-oriented, diligent, and intelligent in his work. He creatively applied the lessons and experiences he gained from working in the railroad industry to the steel industry, efficiently connecting the raw materials and supply chains in the steel production process. His professional success brought immense wealth, but Carnegie chose to be a distributor rather than a custodian of these riches. He invested the majority of his wealth into public causes, benefiting thousands of people. In his view, greater wealth came with greater responsibility. Money didn't grant the right to indulge, it imposed a duty to help society. Carnegie believed that wealthy individuals should actively manage their wealth during their lifetimes. Apart from his life story, management expertise, and wealth philosophy, Andrew Carnegie also left behind many memorable quotes. While the adage, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket," is a familiar one, Carnegie, speaking from the perspective of experience, advised young people differently. He believed the correct approach was to put all your good eggs in one basket and then watch that basket closely. This reflected his business philosophy in the steel industry, where he believed that one needed to lead in a particular field to achieve success. In his perspective, few people could invest in multiple fields and consistently make substantial profits. Successful individuals often chose a single industry and persevered in it. Carnegie's advice to young people was clear: not only should you invest your funds in your chosen field, but you should also invest all your energy into it. If you're interested in delving deeper into Carnegie's philosophies, we recommend reading the original book. That concludes the content of this audio session. Congratulations on completing another book. We appreciate your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker Channel audiobook channel. Give it a thumbs up and share it with your family and friends. Wisdom is worth spreading, paving the way for a brighter future. Thank you, and goodbye.